Good evening. Tonight, we journey back beyond the dawn of time, beyond the first stars, to a place before everything, a quiet, endless void known as chaos. Imagine a space so vast and so still, it's almost alive. A deep, silent, empty expanse stretching gently in every direction. There's no up, no down, no beginning, no end, just a profound, peaceful nothingness. It isn't dark in the way we know it, because light hasn't been born yet. It isn't cold, because heat is a concept that doesn't exist. This is the primordial womb of the universe, a silent potential waiting to awaken. From this immense stillness, the first stirrings begin. It's not a sudden explosion, but a soft, gradual emergence. Like thoughts forming in a quiet mind, shapes start to take form out of the void. A wide, stable base materializing within the endless expanse. She is the ground upon which all future stories will be built, the stage for the grand drama of creation. Imagine her forming slowly, a solid presence in the midst of the intangible. She is the first anchor in the cosmos, a promise of form and substance. With these first beings in place, the void is no longer entirely empty. It now holds the potential for more. And from the union of night and darkness, something new is conceived. Ether rises, filling the upper reaches of the cosmos with a soft, ethereal brilliance, while Himera brings the first gentle cycle of day, a warm and welcome contrast to the eternal night. This is the first dawn, a quiet miracle painting the void with color and life. Now, with light and day, the universe can truly see itself for the first time. Gaia, the earth, basking in this new glow, stirs. She is no longer alone in the silent expanse. Of her own accord, without a partner, she gives birth to beings that will shape her world. First, she creates Uranus, the sky. He arches over her, vast and brilliant, a dome of stars and celestial light. He is her equal, her companion, a mirror to her own immensity. Imagine him stretching out, a canopy of twinkling possibilities, covering her completely. Their union is the first great romance of the cosmos, the coming together of earth and sky from her own substance. Gaia also brings forth the mountains, the Aria. They rise from her surface, jagged peaks and rolling hills, giving her texture and grandeur. And she also creates Pontus, the barren, deep sea, a vast, churning body of water, filling the hollows and crevices of her form. The world is beginning to look familiar, with land, sea, and sky all in place. These first entities are not just physical features, they are powerful, living gods, raw and untamed expressions of nature itself. They are the foundation of everything that is to come. The union of Gaia and Uranus, earth and sky, is incredibly fruitful. They give birth to the first dynasty of gods, the 12 Titans, 6 sons and 6 daughters, each a powerful force of nature. There's Oceanus, the great river that encircles the world. Theseus, his consort, the mother of rivers and springs. Hyperion, the lord of light, and they, the lady of shimmering gold and jewels. Crius, Cus, Phoebe, and Themis, the embodiment of order and divine law. And the cunning Iapetus and beautiful Mnemosyne, whose name means memory. Finally, there are the 2 most formidable of them all, the gentle, harvest-loving Rhea, and the youngest, most ambitious, and most dangerous of them, Alcronus. These titans are colossal beings, personifications of the fundamental forces of the universe. They are the architects of the early world. their power shaping the very fabric of reality. They represent a step beyond the raw elemental forces of chaos. They have minds, wills, and ambitions. They are the first generation of rulers, a powerful family whose relationships, their loves, their rivalries, and their fears will set the stage for the next chapter of cosmic history. But Gaia and Uranus did not only have the beautiful and powerful Titans. Their union also produced other, more monstrous offspring. First came the Cyclopes, three one-eyed giants, Brontes, the Thunderer, Sterops, the Lightner, and Arges, the Bright One. They were master craftsmen, beings of immense strength who could forge lightning and command the storms. Their single eye, in the middle of their forehead, saw the world with a stark, powerful clarity. They were raw, untamed power, a testament to the wildness of their parents. And after the Cyclopes, another set of children were born, even more terrifying. The Hecatonchires, the 100-handed ones, three monstrous giants, each with 50 heads and 100 powerful arms. Catos, Brireos, and Gyges. Their appearance was so fearsome, their strength so overwhelming, that they embodied the uncontrollable, chaotic forces of nature. Earthquakes, volcanoes, tidal waves, the destructive power of the early world was captured in their monstrous forms. Uranus, the sky, looked upon these monstrous children, the Cyclopes and the 100-handed ones, with fear and disgust. They were not perfect like the Titans. They were ugly, chaotic, and a reminder of the untamed wilderness from which he had sprung. He couldn't bear to see them roaming the world. And so, in a cruel act born of vanity and fear, he took his monstrous children and thrust them back into the womb of their mother, Gaia. He imprisoned them deep within the earth, in a dark abyss known as Tartarus. Gaia groaned in agony. The pain of carrying her imprisoned children within her was immense, a constant, heavy torment. Her love for all her children, beautiful and monstrous alike, was absolute. Uranus's cruelty filled her with a simmering rage. This act of suppression, this denial of his own offspring, was the first great crime of the cosmos. It was an act that broke the harmony between earth and sky and planted the seeds of rebellion. Gaia, the gentle mother, began to plot her revenge. The peaceful era of creation was over. A new age, an age of conflict and betrayal, was about to begin. The quiet void was now filled with passion, pain, and the promise of a war that would shake the foundations of the universe. Thank you for joining us on this journey back to the beginning. If you enjoyed this exploration of cosmic origins, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales from mythology. Let us know in the comments which creation story you'd like to hear next. Until next time, stay curious. In the quiet hum of the cosmos, long before time was measured by suns and moons, there was a deep and patient slumber. Imagine a vast, formless canvas, a gentle, breathing entity adrift in the silent sea of space. This was Gaia, our Earth, not yet a world of green and blue, but a dreaming consciousness, a potential waiting to unfold. In her sleep, she held the seeds of everything that would ever be. For eons, she drifted, a soft, swirling sphere of dust and gas, coalescing under the gentle pull of her own heart. In this cosmic dream, there was no sound, only the feeling of becoming. It was a slow dance of elements, a quiet gathering of stardust. This wasn't a violent birth, but a gradual, tender awakening. Like the first stirrings of life in a seed buried deep in the soil. She was gathering her strength, her very substance, preparing for the magnificent story she was about to tell. Then, a flicker, a pulse from deep within her core. A warmth began to spread, a soft, internal light. This was the moment of her first conscious thought, the dawn of her own awareness. Gaia, Mother Earth, was stirring from her long, dream-filled sleep. The surface, once a uniform haze, began to shift and change. It was as if she was stretching after a deep rest, her body remembering its power and its purpose. Slowly, tenderly, she began to shape herself. With a great, sighing breath, she pushed upwards, and the first mountains were born. They weren't jagged, angry peaks, but soft, rounded shoulders rising towards the endless dark. They were her bones, the very structure of her being, reaching for the stars that had been her companions in the long silence. They stood as silent witnesses to her awakening, their surfaces still warm from the inner fire that had forged them. As the mountains rose, deep hollows formed between them, and into these new-made basins, Gaia wept her first tears. But these were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of creation. From her very essence, water began to seep and flow, pooling into vast, dark mirrors that reflected the star-dusted sky. The first oceans were born calm and still, holding the mysteries of the deep within their silent embrace. They were the lifeblood of the world, a promise of the abundance to come. Imagine the peace of that first world. The air was pure and thin, carrying no scent but that of cooling stone and fresh water. The only sound was the gentle lapping of the new oceans against the shores of the first continent, a soft, rhythmic lullaby. It was a world of profound tranquility, a perfect, untouched canvas waiting for the first strokes of color, the first notes of life's song, and then light. From across the cosmic expanse, a new presence made itself known. The sun, a brilliant, golden orb, cast its first rays upon the face of the sleeping giant. It was a gentle greeting, a warm, golden kiss. The light spilled over the round shoulders of the mountains, painting them in hues of amber and rose. It danced on the surface of the primordial oceans, turning them from inky black to shimmering sapphire. This was the first sunrise, a moment of breathtaking beauty that marked the beginning of the first day. Bathed in this new, life-giving warmth, Gaia felt a new energy course through her. The light was a catalyst, a call to create. She felt a deep, maternal yearning to fill her beautiful, empty world with life. In her heart, which was now a molten core of creation, she began to dream again. But these were no longer the formless dreams of her long sleep. These were dreams with shape, with purpose, with the spark of existence. She dreamed of things that could move and grow, things that could feel the warmth of the sun and drink from her sweet waters. She envisioned beings that could walk upon her skin, swim in her oceans, and soar through her skies. Her imagination, now fully awakened, was a powerful force, a loom upon which she wove the intricate tapestries of life. First, she dreamed of green. A soft, velvety moss began to creep over the bare rock, a living blanket that softened the hard edges of her creation. It was the earth's first blush, a sign of her burgeoning vitality. Then came the ferns, unfurling their delicate fronds in the damp, shaded valleys, their patterns as intricate as a fractal. She dreamed of forests, and mighty trees reached for the sky, their roots digging deep into her soil, their leaves whispering secrets to the wind. Her dreams took to the water. In the sunlit shallows of her oceans, she imagined creatures of shimmering color and graceful form. Tiny, single-celled beings first, the very building blocks of life, multiplying and evolving in the warm, nutrient-rich seas. Then, larger, more complex forms began to appear, swimming through the blue depths, their movements a silent, underwater ballet. The oceans, once silent, now teemed with the quiet hum of a million different lives. Her imagination then soared into the air. She dreamed of wings, of feathers that could catch the wind. The first insects buzzed through the air, their iridescent bodies glinting in the sunlight. Then came the birds, their calls echoing through the new forests, their songs the first music the world had ever known. They were the voice of Gaia, singing a hymn of joy and creation, a celebration of the life that was now bursting forth in every corner of her world. And finally, she dreamed of the walkers. Creatures of all shapes and sizes began to populate the land. Some were small and shy, scurrying through the undergrowth. Others were large and majestic, their heavy footfalls a steady, rhythmic drumbeat on the earth. Each one was a unique thought, a special creation born from her boundless love and imagination. They were her children, and she watched over them with a gentle, nurturing gaze. This was the dawn of life, a magnificent, unfolding miracle orchestrated by the awakened consciousness of Mother Earth. Every mountain, every river, every leaf, and every creature was a part of her, a piece of her story. She had woken from her long slumber to find herself no longer alone in the cosmos. She was now a mother, a creator, a vibrant, living world. Her surface, a symphony of life, her heart beating in time with the countless beings she had dreamed into existence. The early Earth was a paradise, a testament to the creative power of a single, loving thought. From her own being, without a partner, she brought forth the first great powers that would shape the world forever. Imagine this: Gaia, a living, breathing entity, stretches her immense form. With a great, cosmic sigh, she pushes upward, and from her rises a vast, star-dusted dome. This was Uranus, the sky. He wasn't born in a flash of light or a crash of thunder, but unfurled like a magnificent blanket, arching over her in a perfect, loving embrace. At first, he was a deep, dark blue, but soon pinpricks of light began to appear, the very first stars. They twinkled down at Gaia, their silent, shimmering light a testament to her creative power. Uranus was her equal, her complement, a celestial ceiling that would cover her for all eternity. He brought with him the concept of height, of what is above, and together he and Gaia defined the fundamental axis of existence, the up and the down, the heaven and the earth. Their union was the first great partnership, a cosmic dance that set the stage for all life to come. But Gaia's creative spirit was far from finished. The world was still just earth and sky. It needed depth, it needed mystery, it needed the life-giving pulse of water. So Gaia turned her attention inward to the hollows and crevices of her own body. With a gentle, persistent will, she gathered the primal waters, shaping them into a new and powerful being. This was Pontus, the sea. He wasn't a calm, placid lake. He was the raw, untamed ocean. Imagine the moment of his creation, water bubbling up from the deep, filling the vast basins of the world. It was a churning, salty expanse, full of powerful currents and fathomless depths. Pontus was the personification of the sea's wild, unpredictable nature. He was deep, dark, and mysterious, a realm of secrets hidden beneath the waves. Unlike the serene and distant Uranus, Pontus was immediate, tangible, his waves crashing against Gaia's shores in a constant, rhythmic heartbeat. He was the great abyss, the frontier of the unknown, and his presence added a new, dynamic dimension to the young world, a force of both creation and destruction. With the sky above and the sea around, the world was taking shape, but the landscape itself was still mostly flat. Gaia needed structure. She needed sentinels to watch over her lands. And so, in a slow, silent, and majestic act of creation, she gave birth to the Area, the mountains. This wasn't a violent volcanic eruption. Instead, picture the land itself beginning to ripple and fold. Slowly, inexorably, great peaks pushed their way towards the sky. They rose not with a roar, but with a profound geological quiet. One by one, they appeared. Mount Olympus, its peak destined to be the home of gods. Mount Helicon, future home of the Muses. Mount Athos, a stoic guardian by the sea. Each mountain had its own personality, its own spirit. They were rugged and ancient from the moment of their birth, their stony faces carved by winds that had not yet learned to blow. They were the silent watchers, the pillars that connected Gaia to Uranus. They stood as timeless guardians, their slopes covered in the first hardy plants, their peaks reaching up to touch the starry expanse of their brother, the sky. They provided stability, they defined valleys, and they channeled the first rivers that began to flow from their heights down to their brother, Pontus, the sea. And so the stage was set. Gaia, the earth, was no longer alone. She was adorned and completed by her children. Above her arched the starry vault of Uranus, the sky, her partner and equal. Around her surged the powerful, mysterious depths of Pontus, the sea, a realm of untamed energy. And rising from her own surface were the Aurea, the steadfast and silent mountains, her eternal guardians. These three primordial forces, sky, sea, and mountains, were the first great features of the cosmos, the pillars upon which the entire world would be built. They were not just geographical locations. They were living, breathing entities, the first family of gods, born from the singular will of Mother Earth. Their creation marked the end of the initial void and the beginning of a world rich with potential, a world ready for the next, more complex and far more dramatic generation of gods to make their entrance. The age of the Titans was about to begin. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible cosmic journey. It's truly humbling to imagine the world in its very first moments. If you're as fascinated by these ancient stories as I am, make sure you hit that subscribe button. The story is just getting started, and things are about to get very interesting. Drop a comment below and let me know which of these primordial beings, Uranus, Pontus, or the mountains, you find most awe-inspiring. From this swirling void emerged Gaia, the earth, a nurturing presence full of life and potential. And looking down upon her was Uranus, the starry sky, vast and majestic. Their union was a cosmic dance, a weaving of earth and heaven. And from this profound connection, the first true gods were born, the Titans. Imagine a world bathed in a soft, ethereal light, a primal dawn breaking over a young earth. This is the world where Gaia and Uranus welcomed their first children. There were 12 of them, 6 sons and 6 daughters, each a magnificent being, a living embodiment of the forces that were beginning to shape the cosmos. They weren't just born. They were manifestations of the universe's growing order. Let's meet the brothers first. At the forefront was Oceanus, the great river that encircled the entire world. He wasn't the raging sea we know today, but a calm, steady current, the source of all the world's fresh water. His presence was a gentle, constant embrace around the land. Then came Zeus, the titan of intellect and the inquisitive mind. He represented the axis of the heavens, the very pillar around which the constellations would one day begin their celestial dance. He was the embodiment of curiosity, the thirst for knowledge that drives discovery. Next was Crius, a less famous but equally important titan. He was associated with the constellations of the southern sky, a celestial shepherd guiding the stars. His brother, Hyperion, was a being of pure light and glory. He was the titan of the east, the one who watched over the sun, the moon, and the dawn. He was the lord of heavenly light, bringing brightness and warmth to the nascent world. His very name means the one who goes above. Then there was Iapetus, the titan of the west, whose domain was the pillar holding the western edge of the sky. He was also known as the Piercer, and his legacy would be deeply tied to the concept of mortality, a story for another time. And finally, the youngest and most ambitious of the brothers, Cronus, he was the titan of the harvest and the passage of time. Unlike his siblings, who represented vast, stable forces, Cronus was associated with change, with the cycle of growth, decay, and rebirth. This ambition, this connection to time's relentless march, would set him on a path that would change everything. And what of the sisters, the Titanites? They were just as powerful, each a force of nature in her own right. They, whose name means divine sight, was the Titaness of shimmering light and precious metals. She was the one who gave gold, silver, and gems their luster. Imagine her as the glow of a sunrise, the sparkle on a clear stream. She was married to her brother Hyperion, and together their children would be the sun, the moon, and the dawn itself. Rhea, whose name means flow or ease, was the titaness of fertility and motherhood. She was the gentle, nurturing heart of the family, a reflection of her own mother, Gaia. Her destiny was to become the mother of the next generation of gods, the Olympians. She was paired with the ambitious Cronus, a union of nurturing ease and relentless time that would prove both fruitful and fraught with conflict. Then there was Theseus, the embodiment of divine law, order, and custom. Before justice was a concept created by mortals, it existed as Themis. She was the voice of reason, the unseen force that ensured the cosmos operated with a sense of fairness and balance. Her wisdom was sought by all, and she held the scales that would one day weigh the deeds of gods and men. Mnemosyne was the titaness of memory. In a world without writing, she was the living library of all that had been and all that was. She was the keeper of stories, the source of inspiration for poets and artists. Every legend, every piece of knowledge flowed from her. She was the mother of the 9 muses who would later inspire all of human creativity. Phoebe, the bright or radiant one, was the titaness of prophecy and intellect, much like her husband, Zeus. She was associated with the moon and was the original prophetess of the oracle at Delphi, a place that would become the most sacred site in the ancient world. Her gift was seeing what was to come, a power both wondrous and terrifying. And finally, Tethys, the wife of Oceanus. Together, they ruled over the world's waters. She was the mother of the 3,000 river gods and the 3,000 oceanids, the nymphs of the sea. She was the embodiment of the primal font of water, the source from which all life-giving rivers and springs flowed. Her very essence was about nurturing the world through water. As these 12 magnificent beings grew, the world around them settled into a gentle rhythm. The wild energies of creation began to find their channels. Oceanus's rivers carved paths through the land. Hyperion's light established the cycle of day and night, and Themis's presence brought an unspoken order to the universe. It was a time of immense peace, a golden age before strife and ambition tainted the world. Picture them, these 12 titans, walking the young earth. They weren't just rulers, they were the world. When Zeus pondered, the stars seemed to align in new patterns. When Rhea smiled, flowers bloomed in her wake. When Oceanus and Theseus embraced, new springs bubbled up from the ground. They were a family, the first divine family, and their existence was the foundation upon which all future myths would be built. This was a time of idyllic harmony. Gaia looked upon her children with pride, and Uranus watched from above as his offspring brought structure and beauty to the world he covered. The pillars of heaven and earth were set, the courses of the stars were charted, and the very concept of time began to tick forward under Cronus's watchful eye. For a brief, shining moment in cosmic history, everything was in its right place. The world was a peaceful, ordered home, governed by the 12 titans, the first and mightiest children of earth and sky. But as we know from the tales that follow, even the most perfect peace cannot last forever, especially when ambition and the relentless march of time are part of the family. The stage was set, the players were in place, and the first great chapter of mythology was about to unfold. In the beginning, there was only chaos. From chaos emerged Gaia, the earth, and Uranus, the sky. They were the first rulers, the primordial parents of everything. Gaia, the Great Mother, gave birth to many children. First came the Hecatonchires, giants with 50 heads and 100 hands, immense in their power. Then came the Cyclopes, masterful craftsmen with a single eye glowing in their foreheads. And finally, the 12 titans, beings of great beauty and strength. But Uranus looked upon his first children, the Hecatonchires and the Cyclopes, with fear and disgust. Their raw, untamed power was a threat to his authority. He couldn't bear the sight of them. So, in an act of cruel tyranny, he took them and thrust them back into the womb of their mother, deep within the hidden places of the earth. Gaia groaned in agony. Her body was stretched and strained. Her heart ached for her imprisoned children. She loved them all, and the pain of their confinement was her own. She pleaded with Uranus, but he was deaf to her cries, content in his unchallenged reign over the cosmos. As the years passed, Gaia's sorrow turned into a simmering rage. She could no longer endure her husband's cruelty. The weight of her imprisoned children was a constant torment. She resolved that Uranus must be overthrown, so she devised a plan. From deep within her own substance, she forged a new element, a hard, gray metal she called adamant. From this, she fashioned a great sickle, a magnificent and terrifying weapon, with a jagged edge that glinted in the dim light of the deep earth. With the sickle in hand, Gaia went to her other children, the Titans, who still roamed free. She gathered them in a secret council, her voice a low whisper filled with pain and determination. She showed them the sickle and spoke of their father's tyranny, of their brothers suffering in the dark abyss of Tartarus. She urged them to rise up, to free their siblings, and to end Uranus's oppressive rule. But the Titans were afraid. They revered their father, the mighty sky, and the thought of raising a hand against him filled them with dread. They stood silent, their gazes fixed on the ground, all except one. The youngest of the Titans, Cronus, stepped forward. He had always resented his father's arrogance and cruelty. Unlike his siblings, he felt his mother's pain as his own. His heart was filled not with fear, but with a cold, burning ambition. He looked at his mother, saw the tears in her eyes, and his resolve hardened. "Mother," he said, his voice quiet but firm, "I am not afraid. I will do this. I will end his reign, and we will have justice." Gaia's heart swelled with a mixture of pride and apprehension. She gave the great sickle to Cronus, and together they laid their trap. That evening, as Uranus descended from the heavens to embrace Gaia, as he did every night, Cronus and his brothers lay in wait. Hidden in the shadows, Cronus clutched the adamantine sickle, its cold weight a comfort in his hand. As Uranus drew near, consumed by his desire and oblivious to the betrayal that awaited him, Cronus sprang from his hiding place. With one swift, powerful motion, he swung the great sickle and struck his father. The cosmos held its breath. Uranus cried out, a sound of shock and agony that echoed through the void. He recoiled, wounded, and forever severed from the earth. As he retreated into the highest reaches of the sky, his power bled away from him. From the drops of his blood that fell upon the earth, new and terrible beings were born. The vengeful Furies, the mighty giants, and the gentle nymphs of the ash trees. But Uranus was defeated. His reign was over. A new era dawned. Cronus, the brave son, the liberator, took his father's place as the ruler of the universe. He freed his siblings, the Hecatonchires and Cyclopes, from their long imprisonment in Tartarus. For a time, it seemed as though a golden age had begun. Order was restored, and the cosmos was at peace under the new king. Cronus married his sister, the gentle Titaness Rhea, and together they presided over a world of prosperity. But even in this time of peace, a dark shadow lingered. Before he vanished into the cosmos, the vanquished Uranus had uttered a prophecy, a curse upon his son. He foretold that just as Cronus had overthrown his own father, so too would Cronus be overthrown by one of his own children. This prophecy haunted Cronus. It burrowed deep into his mind, twisting his victory into a source of constant, gnawing fear. He, who had defied his father to end a tyranny, now became a tyrant himself, obsessed with protecting his power at any cost. He looked upon his own children not with love, but with suspicion. The fear of his father's curse consumed him, and he resolved to cheat fate. Every time his wife Rhea gave birth, Cronus would seize the newborn infant and swallow it whole, imprisoning his own children within his body, just as his father had imprisoned his. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, one by one, they were consumed by their paranoid father. The peace of his reign was a lie, built upon a foundation of fear and an even greater cruelty than the one he had ended. The cycle of violence, betrayal, and the struggle for power was not over. It was only just beginning. A new hero would be needed to challenge this new tyrant. The great overthrow had changed the world, but the seeds of the next, even greater conflict had already been sown. The story of Cronus is a powerful reminder that power corrupts, and that even the greatest liberators can become the worst of tyrants. What do you think of Cronus's actions? Let us know in the comments below. Before the Olympians, before the thunderbolts and epic wars, there was a time of serene quiet. Imagine a world without struggle, a world where the earth gave its bounty freely. This was the reality for the first race of mortals, the golden race. They lived like gods, with hearts free from sorrow and bodies untouched by the ravages of age or hard labor. Death, when it came, was as gentle as falling asleep. From his throne, Cronus ruled not with an iron fist, but with a steady, watchful calm. He wasn't the fearsome figure we often picture, but a benevolent sovereign presiding over an age of unmatched prosperity. Under his gaze, the world flourished. The rivers ran with milk and nectar, and honey dripped from the trees. There were no ships to sail the seas, for there was no need to trade or explore. Everything anyone could ever want was right there in abundance. The seasons were constant, a gentle, eternal spring. Humans lived in complete harmony with nature and with each other. There were no laws, because no one ever thought to wrong another. There were no weapons, for there was no concept of war or violence. It was a society built on pure innocence and contentment. The very air seemed to hum with a quiet, peaceful energy. The relationship between the Titans and humanity was one of stewardship. Cronus and his siblings weren't distant, warring gods. They were the guardians of this perfect world. They watched over humanity, ensuring the balance was maintained, that the tranquility was never broken. The world was their garden, and humanity were the cherished blossoms within it. In this golden age, nature itself was in a state of blissful repose. The lion lay down with the lamb, not in a prophetic vision, but as a simple fact of life. Predators had no need to hunt, and prey had no need to fear. The forests were lush and vibrant, the meadows were perpetually in bloom, and every creature lived in a state of grace. The entire cosmos seemed to hold its breath, savoring the stillness. But what of Cronus himself? We often hear of his paranoia, his fear of being overthrown by his own children. And while that is a crucial part of his story, it's important to remember the world he ruled before that fear consumed him. He was the king of a perfect age, the overseer of a world that knew only peace. He was the embodiment of steady, unwavering order, a cosmic force holding the universe in a state of perfect equilibrium. The Golden Age represents a deep-seated human longing for a lost paradise, a time before complication, before sorrow, before work. It's a nostalgic dream of a simpler, better world. The people of this era weren't just happy, they were fundamentally good, their spirits untainted by greed, jealousy, or ambition. They simply existed, living out their long lives in a state of serene bliss. When their time on Earth was over, they didn't descend into a gloomy underworld. Instead, their spirits became benevolent guardians, roaming the earth, watching over later generations, invisible protectors of justice and bestowers of wealth. They were a blessing even in death, a testament to the purity of their existence. This tranquil epoch, however, was not destined to last forever. As we know, change is the only constant in the cosmos. The quiet reign of the Titans was a foundation, a starting point from which the more dynamic, more chaotic, and more human-like world of the Olympians would eventually emerge. The peace was profound, but it was also static. We delve into the prophecy that ignited Cronus' sphere and set in motion the epic conflict that would shatter the golden peace and give birth to a new age of gods and heroes. The calm could not hold, and the storm was coming. In the grand tapestry of the cosmos, where time itself was but a thread woven by the fates. A new thread was spun, one that would change everything. This is the story of a birth shrouded in secrecy, a prophecy whispered on the winds, and a destiny that would shake the very foundations of the heavens. This is the story of Zeus. Our tale begins not with a celebration, but with a mother's desperate act of love and defiance. The goddess Rhea, wife of the mighty Titan Cronus, had suffered an unspeakable sorrow. Cronus, the ruler of the universe, lived in the cold shadow of a terrible prophecy, just as he had overthrown his own father, Uranus. Gripped by paranoia, Cronus devised a monstrous solution. As each of his children was born, he would swallow them whole, imprisoning them within his own being. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, one by one, they were lost to the darkness, their divine light seemingly extinguished before it could ever truly shine. But as Rhea prepared to give birth to her sixth child, a fierce resolve ignited within her. She could not bear to lose another. Aided by her parents, Gaia, the earth herself, and Uranus, the sky, she devised a plan steeped in deception, a gamble for the future of the gods. When the time came, Rhea did not present her newborn son to Cronus. Instead, she journeyed in secret to the rugged, untamed island of Crete. There, under the cloak of night, she found a deep, hidden cave on the slopes of Mount Ida, a place so remote and sacred that even the far-seeing eyes of Cronus would not find it. This cave would be the cradle of a king, the sanctuary of a savior. Inside, the air was cool and filled with the gentle dripping of water, like a constant, quiet lullaby. The soft, flickering glow of candlelight danced across ancient stone walls, casting long, protective shadows. Here, in this humble, earthy womb, Rhea held her son for the last time. For many years, she looked into his infant eyes, which held a spark of lightning, a promise of the storm to come. She named him Zeus. With a heart torn between sorrow and hope, she entrusted him to the care of the Malaya, the gentle ash tree nymphs. Their names were Adrastea and Ida, and their kindness was as deep as the roots of their sacred trees. Rhea then returned to Cronus. In her arms, she carried not a baby, but a large stone, a swaddling stone, wrapped tightly in blankets. Blinded by his fear and his ravenous hunger for security, Cronus did not even look closely. He seized the bundle and swallowed it in one gulp, believing he had once again cheated fate. A sigh of relief escaped his lips, a sound that echoed with the hollowness of his victory. He was safe. The prophecy was averted. He was, he believed, eternally secure on his throne. But far away, in that quiet cave on Crete, destiny was breathing its first breaths. The baby Zeus was safe. The nymphs, Adrastea and Ida, became his surrogate mothers. They cradled him in a golden sling, hanging it from a high branch of a tree, so he was suspended between earth and sky, hidden from his father's dominion over both realms. When he cried, his infant wails were not the cries of an ordinary baby. They were the rumble of distant thunder, a sound with the power to betray his location. To drown out these divine sounds, a band of warrior spirits, the Curetes, were tasked with his protection. Whenever Zeus would stir, they would clash their spears against their shields and perform a loud, rhythmic war dance, their shouts and the clang of bronze on bronze echoing through the mountainside, disguising the cries of the future king as the clamor of a ritual. The nymphs fed him not with mortal food, but with the ambrosia of the gods, and he drank milk from a magical goat named Amalthea. Her horns flowed with nectar, and her hide would one day become the aegis, Zeus's invincible shield. Bees from the sacred mountain brought him honey, their gentle buzzing a sweet counterpoint to the Keret's fierce dance. In this secret haven, surrounded by unwavering loyalty and nourished by the magic of the ancient earth, Zeus grew, and he grew quickly. Unlike mortal children, his divine nature meant he matured with astonishing speed. Within a year, he was no longer an infant, but a strong, vibrant youth. The spark of lightning in his eyes had grown into a steady fire. The rumble in his voice was no longer a cry, but the confident tone of a leader. He learned the ways of the wild, the secrets of the earth and sky, and the arts of war from the Keretes. He was a god in hiding, a king in exile, but his power was undeniable, while Cronus reigned in blissful ignorance, believing his rule to be absolute. A revolution was quietly taking root in a cave. The balance of power in the cosmos was secretly, silently shifting. The fates, who had spun this thread of destiny, watched as it grew stronger, thicker, and more luminous. The prophecy was not a warning for Cronus to avoid. It was a roadmap to his inevitable downfall. The child he had thought to destroy was alive. He was growing in strength, in wisdom, and in his thirst for justice. Soon, Zeus would emerge from his mountain sanctuary. He would journey to the heart of his father's kingdom, not as a son seeking a reunion, but as an avenger, ready to free his siblings and claim his birthright. The age of the Titans was drawing to a close, and a new era, the age of the Olympians, was about to dawn. All because of a mother's love, a desperate gamble, and a baby hidden away in a secret cave on the island of Crete. The universe held its breath, waiting for the king to announce his arrival. Here, in the quiet solitude of a mountain forest, a future king is being raised, hidden from the watchful, paranoid eyes of his father, Cronus. Imagine a world bathed in soft, dappled sunlight, filtering through a canopy of ancient trees. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth, wild herbs, and blooming flowers. This isn't a place of gods and monsters, not yet. It's a sanctuary, a cradle of nature where life moves at a gentle, unhurried pace. In this serene wilderness, a divine child is taking his first steps, his laughter echoing through the silent glades, unheard by the world he is destined to rule. Our story begins with a truly unique and tender relationship. The infant Zeus, small and vulnerable, is not nursed by a goddess or a queen, but by a gentle goat named Amalthea. Her name itself means tender goddess, and she was more than just a provider of sustenance. She was his guardian, his first friend. Picture the scene. The young god, his chubby hands tangled in her soft white fur, drinking the rich, nourishing milk that would imbue him with divine strength. Amalthea's horns, it was said, flowed with ambrosia and nectar, the very food and drink of the gods. In some versions of the tale, one of her horns accidentally broke off. Zeus, filled with gratitude, transformed it into the cornucopia, the horn of plenty, a magical vessel that could provide its owner with an endless supply of whatever they desired. This first act of divine power was not one of wrath or might, but of immense gratitude and generosity, a testament to the kindness he received in his earliest days. But Amalthea was not his only protector. The forest itself seemed to conspire to keep him safe. The Keret's armored male dancers were tasked by his mother Rhea to guard the sacred cave. Whenever the infant Zeus would cry, they would clash their spears against their shields and break into a wild, rhythmic war dance. Their clatter and shouts would drown out the baby's cries, a chaotic symphony of protection that prevented the sound from ever reaching the ears of Cronus. They were a wall of noise and motion, a living shield between the infant and his dreadful fate. And then there were the gentler spirits of the woods, the nymphs. Adrastea and Ida, daughters of the Cretan king, became his devoted caretakers. They crafted a cradle from a golden bow and hung it high in a tree, so Zeus was suspended between earth, sea, and sky, making him invisible to his father, no matter where Cronus searched. These nymphs, along with the dryads and other forest spirits, filled his days with wonder. They would hum ancient, wordless lullabies, melodies as old as the mountains themselves, their soft voices weaving through the leaves like a gentle breeze. They taught him the language of the forest, the whisper of the wind, the rustle of leaves, the calls of the birds. He learned the secrets of the trees and the paths of the stars. It was a magical, peaceful upbringing, steeped in the raw, untamed power of nature. As seasons turned, the infant grew into a boy, and the boy into a young man. The milk of Amalthea and the nectar of the gods transformed him. His body became strong, his muscles lean and powerful from climbing the rugged cliffs and running through the dense woods. He wasn't just growing in physical stature. His mind was sharpening, his spirit deepening. The solitude of the mountains gave him something the halls of Olympus never could: time for reflection. He watched the eagles soar on the thermal winds, learning about freedom and perspective. He observed the patient strength of the ancient oaks, understanding resilience and endurance. He was not a brash or impulsive youth. The silence of his upbringing fostered a thoughtful and strategic mind. He would sit for hours by a gurgling stream, his gaze distant, planning, contemplating. He was aware of his destiny, of the father he had never met, and the throne that awaited him. But he knew that raw power alone was not enough. His time in the wilderness taught him wisdom, patience, and a deep connection to the living world. He learned to listen before acting, to observe before striking. This quiet, steady growth was forging not just a warrior, but a king, a ruler who understood the delicate balance of nature and the importance of justice, kindness, and strategy. He befriended the animals of the forest, and they in turn recognized the divinity within him. Majestic eagles became his messengers, their keen eyes, his eyes soaring high above the canopy to survey the world beyond his mountain sanctuary. He wrestled with bears not in anger, but in play, testing his burgeoning strength against the raw power of the wild. Every interaction, every challenge was a lesson. The forest was his classroom, and nature was his greatest teacher. This idyllic existence was a stark contrast to the tyranny and fear that defined his father's reign. Zeus was being shaped by love, freedom, and the untamed beauty of the world, qualities he would one day fight to restore. His foster mother, the goat Amalthea, remained by his side. When she eventually passed away from old age, Zeus, in his sorrow and eternal gratitude, used her hide to create his legendary shield, the Aegis. This shield was impenetrable, a symbol of divine protection, a constant reminder of the gentle creature who had first protected him. He also placed her image among the stars, creating the constellation Capricorn, so that her nurturing spirit would shine down on the world for all eternity. Every part of his upbringing, every relationship, was being woven into the fabric of his divine identity. So, as we leave Zeus here, on the cusp of manhood, standing tall and powerful against the backdrop of the Cretan mountains, remember that this is where the true foundation of his reign was laid. Not in a golden palace, but in a forest glade. Not through fear, but through love. Not in the clamor of court, but in the quiet, steady growth of a soul in tune with the world around him. His silent years were his most formative, forging the thoughtful, strategic, and powerful god who would soon emerge from the shadows to challenge the Titans and change the cosmos forever. The stage is now set for a confrontation of epic proportions. Have you ever wondered what happens when the old ways clash with the new? Not just a small disagreement, but a cosmic shift that reshapes the very fabric of existence. Today, let's travel back to a time of myth, to witness the greatest war the cosmos has ever known, the Titanomachy. But we'll see it not through a lens of chaos and fury, but with a gentle heart, exploring the story of a universe in transition. Our story begins not with a bang, but with an act of liberation. Zeus, having outsmarted his father Cronus, the Titan king, embarks on a mission. Deep within the earth, his siblings Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon have been imprisoned, swallowed by a paranoid father, fearing a prophecy that his child would overthrow him. With cunning and a special potion, Zeus helps his mother, Rhea, trick Cronus. The Titan king drinks, and one by one, the gods are freed. Imagine that reunion. Not a triumphant roar, but a profound, quiet moment of recognition. Siblings who had only known darkness, now standing together under the vast open sky for the first time, united by a shared past and an uncertain future. They were no longer just children of Cronus. They were the Olympians. This act of freedom, however, was also a declaration of war. The cosmos split into two camps. On one side stood Cronus and most of the Titans, the old guard. They were beings of immense power, embodiments of the raw, untamed forces of nature. Their home was Mount Othrys, a fortress of ancient stone and primeval power. They represented order, yes, but the rigid, unyielding order of the past. On the other side, on the majestic peak of Mount Olympus, stood Zeus and his newly freed siblings. They were the new generation, vibrant, dynamic, and envisioning a different kind of world. They weren't just fighting for power. They were fighting for a new beginning, a cosmos governed not by fear, but by a more complex and praised, they hoped, a more just system. The stage was set. Two mountains, two ideologies, two families poised on the brink of a conflict that would last for 10 long years. Now, when we think of a war between gods, we imagine cataclysmic explosions and world-shattering violence. And while the Titanomachy was indeed immense in scale, let's picture it differently. Imagine it in slow motion. This wasn't just a battle of brute force. It was a cosmic ballet. From Mount Olympus, Zeus would hurl his thunderbolts, not as angry, jagged streaks, but as brilliant ribbons of light arcing across the heavens, illuminating the clouds with their raw energy. In response, from Mount Othrys, the Titans would retaliate. They didn't just throw rocks. They would gently lift entire mountains from their foundations and send them soaring through the sky like slow, silent messengers of their strength. Poseidon, from his domain, wouldn't just create tidal waves. Instead, he would beckon the oceans, and the seas would rise in a great, graceful swell. A deep blue curtain moving with majestic purpose to crash against the Titan's shores. Hades, a quiet but formidable presence, wouldn't summon armies of the dead. Rather, the very ground would tremble at his command, the earth itself groaning and shifting, opening chasms not of terror but of deep, ancient power. The sky was filled with a slow, deliberate dance of storms and stone, of light and shadow. The air didn't ring with screams of rage, but with the hum of immense power being exerted, the deep, resonant sound of the world itself being reshaped. For 10 years, this cosmic struggle continued, a persistent, rhythmic pulse of conflict, a testament to the endurance and resolve of both sides. But even a war of gods cannot last forever. The scales of power were evenly balanced, and the conflict had reached a stalemate. Realizing this, Zeus sought a new kind of ally. He traveled to the depths of Tartarus, the deepest pit of the underworld, where Cronus had long ago imprisoned other children of Gaia and Uranus, the Cyclopes and the Hecatoncures, the hundred-handed ones. Zeus freed them, not with a show of dominance, but with a promise of respect and a place in the new world. He offered them nectar and ambrosia, the food of the gods, restoring their strength and their spirit. This was the turning point. The Cyclopes, masters of the forge, were filled with gratitude. As a gift, they crafted incredible weapons. For Zeus, they forged the thunderbolt, the ultimate symbol of his power. For Poseidon, the trident, giving him command over the seas and the earth. And for Hades, the helm of darkness, allowing him to move unseen. The Hecatoncures, with their 100 arms, brought a new dimension to the battle. Picture them, not as monsters, but as a force of nature unleashed. With 100 arms each, they could launch a continuous, overwhelming barrage of boulders, a veritable avalanche hurled upwards toward Mount Othrys. This wasn't just about strength. It was about relentless, unceasing pressure. The very foundations of the Titan's mountain fortress began to crumble under this steady, rhythmic assault. With his new allies and their powerful gifts, Zeus unleashed the final phase of the war. He ascended to the highest point of Olympus, and for a moment, all the energy of the cosmos seemed to gather around him. He unleashed the full force of his power, not in a single destructive blast, but as a blinding, all-encompassing light. The thunderbolts he threw were no longer just streaks in the sky. They were a continuous storm of pure energy. The earth shook, the oceans boiled, and the heavens themselves seemed to be on fire. But even in this crescendo, there was a sense of purpose, not just destruction. It was the universe being scoured clean, preparing for a new dawn. The Titans, ancient and powerful as they were, could not withstand this combined assault. Their mountain shattered, their resolve broke, and one by one they fell. The war was over. The great and terrible Titanomachy had come to an end. But what followed was not a celebration of brutal conquest. It was the quiet arrival of a new era. Zeus and the Olympians had won. The defeated Titans were cast down into Tartarus, imprisoned not out of simple vengeance, but to ensure that the old, chaotic order could never return. A great peace settled over the cosmos. The storms receded, the mountains settled back into the earth, and the oceans grew calm. The sky, once a battlefield, was now clear and blue. The reign of the Titans was over, and the age of the Olympians had begun. A new world, with new rules and new possibilities, was born from the ashes of the old. From the chaos and the fury, a new age dawns. The Titans, ancient and powerful, have fallen, their reign of might and terror brought to an end by their own children. The universe, scarred by the Titanomachy, holds its breath, waiting for the new masters to claim their thrones. From the swirling mists of creation, a peak of impossible height emerges, piercing the heavens themselves. This is Olympus, a mountain of cloud marble, its summit a sanctuary bathed in ethereal light, destined to become the heart of a new world order. The victors of the Great War, the children of Cronus, now ascend. Zeus, the youngest, yet the leader of the rebellion, his eyes crackling with the same lightning he commands, strides to the forefront. He is no longer just a son seeking vengeance. He is a king, a ruler, the arbiter of justice for gods and mortals alike. His brother, Poseidon, follows, the scent of the sea clinging to him like a royal cloak. His gaze is as deep and unpredictable as the oceans he will now command. His trident, a symbol of the earth-shaking power that lies within his grasp. And Hades, the eldest, often misunderstood, walks with a quiet, somber dignity. He does not seek the bright peaks of Olympus, but accepts his domain in the vast unseen realms below, becoming the solemn king of the underworld, a keeper of souls, their sisters, to claim their rightful place. Hera, with a regal bearing that befits the future queen of heaven, her eyes holding both the promise of creation and the fire of fierce loyalty. Demeter, her essence tied to the fertile earth, carries the warmth of the harvest within her, her presence a promise of bounty and life. And Hestia, the gentlest of the siblings, her spirit a steady, calming flame, chooses a different path, not of power, but of presence. She will become the heart of every home, the sacred fire at the center of civilization, a symbol of family and community. Together, they are the first Olympians. On the cloudy peak, thrones of gleaming white cloud marble materialize, each one unique, reflecting the nature of the god who will occupy it. Zeus takes the central, most magnificent throne, a thunderbolt carved into its armrest. Poseidon's is adorned with crashing waves and dolphins, while Hera's is inlaid with peacock feathers and pomegranates. One by one, they take their seats, not as conquerors claiming spoils, but as architects of a new era. The weight of their new responsibilities settles upon them, a mantle heavier than any armor they wore in battle. Soft winds, carrying the scent of ambrosia and nectar, drift through the newly formed halls of their celestial palace. The air is still, no longer thick with the dust of war, but clear and filled with a divine potential. From this high vantage point, they look down upon the world. They see the fledgling race of mortals, small and fragile, living their short, vibrant lives below. These beings will now look to Olympus for guidance, for justice, for inspiration. The gods' actions, their whims, their loves, and their rages will ripple through the mortal world, shaping destinies and creating legends. This is not just a change of rulers, it's a fundamental shift in the cosmos. The raw elemental power of the Titans is replaced by a more complex, more refined order. The Olympians bring with them not just strength, but also concepts of law, art, civilization, and passion. Zeus will enforce cosmic justice, punishing the wicked and rewarding the virtuous. Apollo, his son, will soon arrive, bringing music and prophecy, his lyre echoing through the valleys. Athena will emerge, the goddess of wisdom and strategy, her sharp intellect a guiding light for heroes and kings. Aphrodite will rise from the sea foam, a force of love and beauty, so potent it can sway the hearts of gods and men. Each deity finds their purpose, their domain. Ares will embody the brutal, chaotic spirit of war. Hephaestus, the master craftsman, will forge wonders in his volcanic workshop, his creations a testament to ingenuity. Artemis will roam the wild forests, a huntress under the silver moon, a protector of the young and the untamed. Hermes, the swift messenger, will bridge the gap between worlds, his winged sandals carrying him between Olympus, the earth, and the underworld. The world below begins to change under their nascent rule. Mortals, once cowering from the unpredictable wrath of the Titans, now build temples of white stone in honor of their new gods. They create art, write poetry, and develop laws, their societies reflecting the divine order established high above. The seasons, once chaotic, now follow the gentle rhythm of Demeter's joy and sorrow. Sailors learn to read the will of Poseidon in the tides and the currents. Kings seek the wisdom of Zeus before making judgments. But this new world is not one of perfect harmony. The Olympians are not serene, detached beings. They are a family, with all the love, jealousy, rivalry, and drama that entails. Their passions are as immense as their powers. Hera's jealousy will become legendary, her wrath a fearsome thing. The love affairs of Zeus will father a new generation of heroes and demigods, their lives weaving a complex tapestry of fate and free will. The gods will meddle, they will argue, and they will fight amongst themselves. Their divine dramas will play out on the grand stage of the cosmos, echoing in the lives of the mortals who worship them. From their cloudy halls, they watch, they rule, they love, and they quarrel. The age of Olympus has begun. It will be an age of heroes, of monsters, of epic quests, and profound tragedies. It is an age where the divine and the mortal are inextricably linked, where the fate of one is tied to the whims of the other. The calm that has settled over the peak of Olympus is just a prelude, a quiet moment before the curtain rises on the greatest stories ever told. The universe has its new masters, and their story is just beginning. In the quiet hum of existence, before the dawn of cities and the clamor of civilization, there was a tranquil riverside. Here, where the water whispered secrets to the reeds, a titan named Prometheus began his greatest work. He was not a god of Olympus, prone to thunderous declarations and grand pronouncements. Prometheus was a thinker, a shaper, a being whose heart ached for something more in the vast, beautiful, yet empty world. The earth beneath his feet was rich and pliable, a deep, red-brown clay bank kissed by the river's slow, meandering current. This was his canvas. With hands that could have shaped mountains, Prometheus knelt. He worked not with brute force, but with a potter's gentle touch. He scooped a handful of the damp earth, feeling its coolness, its potential. He mixed it with the river's clear water, a sacred union of land and life. Slowly, tenderly, a form began to emerge from the clay. He didn't rush. Each figure was a meditation. He sculpted slender fingers, capable of both delicate tasks and a firm grasp. He shaped legs, strong and steady, to walk the great expanse of the earth. He formed a torso, a vessel for a heart he hoped would be filled with courage and compassion. And then the head, a perfect sphere to house a mind of curiosity and wonder. He made them in the image of the gods themselves, upright and noble, their faces turned not to the ground like the beasts, but upward, towards the heavens, towards the stars. He imagined them gazing at the cosmos, asking questions, seeking answers, dreaming of what could be. He created two forms, different yet complementary, each a masterpiece of potential. He lined them up along the riverbank, a silent earthen army waiting for the spark of life. They were beautiful, but they were empty. They were perfect statues, but they lacked the one thing that mattered most, a soul. Prometheus, his great work nearly complete, looked upon his creations with a mixture of pride and longing. He had given them form, but he could not give them fire. Not the fire that burns wood, but the fire of the spirit, the divine spark of consciousness. For that, he needed help. He looked to the heavens, and his gaze was met by the wise and brilliant goddess, Athena. She was the goddess of wisdom, of crafts, and of strategy, born from the mind of Zeus himself. She saw what Prometheus had done, and her heart was moved by the quiet beauty of his work and the depth of his ambition for these new beings. Descending from the celestial heights of Olympus, Athena came to the riverside. Her presence was like the first light of dawn, soft and illuminating. She carried no weapon, only an aura of profound knowledge and serene power. She walked among the silent clay figures, her keen eyes taking in every detail of Prometheus's masterful craft. She saw not just clay, but the promise of poets, builders, philosophers, and lovers. She understood the Titan's vision. She leaned in close to the first figure, her breath a warm, gentle breeze. It was not a gale or a storm, but a soft, deliberate exhalation, a whisper of divine essence. As her breath touched the cold clay lips, a change began. A subtle warmth spread through the figure, a faint blush of color rising to its cheeks. The clay softened, transforming into living flesh. The chest rose and fell with its first hesitant breath. Then, the most magical moment of all. The eyelids, once sealed shut, began to flutter. Slowly, they opened, revealing eyes that were not blank and earthen, but deep pools of burgeoning awareness. For the very first time, a human being looked out at the world. It saw the gentle flow of the river, the green of the reeds, the vast blue of the sky. It saw the kind, powerful face of Athena and the hopeful, paternal gaze of Prometheus. It was a look of pure, unadulterated wonder. Athena moved to the next figure and the next, breathing her divine spirit into each one. One by one, the clay army awoke. They blinked in the soft light, their limbs stirring with newfound life. They looked at their own hands, turning them over and over, marveling at their ability to move, to clench, to feel. They looked at each other, seeing not strangers, but reflections of themselves, a shared beginning in this strange and wondrous new reality. They took their first tentative steps on the soft earth, their balance unsure, but their spirits soaring. They were naked, vulnerable, and utterly new. They possessed no knowledge, no language, no memory. All they had was the gift of life from Athena and the perfect form given by Prometheus. They were the first humans, born not of woman, but of a Titan's love for creation and a goddess's gift of wisdom. Prometheus watched, his heart swelling with a feeling he had never known. It was more than pride. It was a profound, aching love for these children of clay and spirit. He saw their potential, their capacity for greatness and for folly, for joy and for sorrow. He knew their path would not be easy. The world was full of challenges, and the gods of Olympus were often fickle and jealous. But as he watched them take their first breaths, their first steps, their first curious glances at the world around them, he made a silent vow. He would not abandon them. He would be their champion, their teacher, their protector. He would guide them, and, if necessary, he would defy the heavens themselves for their sake. This was just the beginning of humanity's story, a story that started on a quiet riverbank with a handful of clay and a divine breath of life. Have you ever stared into the flickering flames of a campfire and felt a deep, ancient connection? It's a feeling that transcends time, a warmth that goes far beyond just heating our skin. This is the story of that warmth, the story of fire, a gift that changed humanity forever. Long ago, in a time shrouded in myth, our world was a much darker, colder place. Imagine a night without a single light, where the moon and stars were the only guides. The great beasts of the earth roamed freely, and for early humans, survival was a constant, desperate struggle. They huddled together in caves, shivering against the biting cold, their world defined by the setting and rising of the sun. The night was a domain of fear, a vast unknown filled with unseen dangers. In the heavens, the gods lived in splendor, their home on Mount Olympus, bathed in eternal light. They looked down upon the fledgling human race, but one among them, a titan named Prometheus, saw not just weakness, but potential. His name means forethought, and he looked into the future, seeing what humanity could become if only they were given a chance, a tool to conquer the darkness. He saw their intelligence, their capacity for creativity, and his heart ached for their struggle. While the other gods were content to keep humanity in a state of primitive ignorance, Prometheus believed they deserved more. He saw fire, the closely guarded secret of the gods, as the key. Fire was not just light and warmth, it was power. It was the power to shape the world, to cook food, to forge tools, and to gather communities. He knew that giving fire to mortals would be an act of defiance, a rebellion against the highest authority, Zeus himself. But Prometheus's compassion for humanity outweighed his fear of punishment. So, under the cloak of twilight, Prometheus embarked on a daring mission. He ascended to the heavens, and, with cunning and courage, he approached the sun chariot of Apollo. He took a hollow stalk of fennel, a plant that burned slowly, and touched its tip to the blazing wheel of the sun. A tiny spark, a glowing ember of divine fire, was captured within the stalk. Quietly, he descended from the heavens, carrying this stolen treasure, this seed of civilization, back to the world of mortals. He found the humans, huddled and fearful as always. He presented them with the glowing stalk. At first, they were afraid. This strange, dancing light was unlike anything they had ever seen. But Prometheus, patient and kind, showed them what to do. He touched the ember to a pile of dry leaves and twigs. A wisp of smoke appeared, then a tiny flicker, and suddenly a flame erupted into being. For the first time, humans controlled fire. The warmth spread through their cold limbs, and a radiant light pushed back the oppressive darkness. The fearsome shadows that had haunted their nights retreated, replaced by a circle of comforting light. They could see each other's faces clearly, not just as silhouettes, but as individuals, their eyes reflecting the dancing flames. The impact was immediate and profound. The fire became the heart of their community. Around its glow, they were no longer just a scattered group of individuals. They became a tribe, a society. The night was no longer a time for fear, but a time for gathering. They shared stories, passed down knowledge, and planned for the future. The elders could teach the young, their faces illuminated, their words carrying new weight and clarity. The fire was a beacon, drawing them together. With fire, they learned to cook their food. This simple act was revolutionary. Cooked meat and plants were easier to digest and provided more energy, which in turn fueled the growth of their brains. Humanity grew stronger, healthier, and smarter. The smoky aroma of roasting food became the scent of home, of security and abundance. They also discovered that fire could harden the tips of wooden spears, making them more effective hunting tools. They could fend off predators that had once hunted them relentlessly. The balance of power began to shift. Humans were no longer just prey. They were becoming masters of their environment. The fire that warmed their hearths also armed their hands. And then came the dawn of industry. They learned that fire could soften and shape metal. From the earth they drew ore, and in the heart of the flames they forged tools, ornaments, and weapons. The clang of the hammer on the anvil became the rhythm of progress. Villages grew into towns, and towns into cities, each with its own fiery heart: the blacksmith's forge, the baker's oven, the potter's kiln. The soft glow of campfires evolved into the bright lights of civilization. From a bird's-eye view, the earth at night began to transform. Where there was once only darkness, pinpricks of light appeared. First, a few scattered campfires, then glowing villages nestled in valleys, and eventually sprawling networks of towns and cities, their lights like new constellations on the surface of the planet. Each light was a testament to Prometheus's gift, a symbol of human ingenuity, community, and our unyielding drive to push back the darkness. But this gift came at a terrible cost to its giver. Zeus, enraged by Prometheus's defiance, exacted a brutal punishment. He had the Titan chained to a rock in the Caucasus Mountains, where every day an eagle would come to feast on his liver, which would regenerate overnight, only for the torment to be repeated the next day. It was an eternity of suffering for an act of compassion. Prometheus's sacrifice, however, was not in vain. The spark he stole grew into the flame of knowledge, the light of reason, and the fire of passion. It's the fire in the scientist's lab, seeking to unlock the universe's secrets. It's the fire in the artist's soul, striving to create beauty. It's the fire in the heart of every revolutionary who fights for a better world. Every time we turn on a light, start a car, or gather with loved ones around a warm hearth, we are living out the legacy of this ancient myth. The gift of fire was more than just a flame. It was the gift of potential, the dawn of consciousness, the spark that allowed humanity to step out of the shadows and begin its long, luminous journey toward the stars. The story of Prometheus reminds us that knowledge is a powerful, transformative force, one that is worth seeking and sharing, even in the face of great opposition. It is a light that once kindled can never truly be extinguished. In the dawn of time, when the world was still new and bathed in a golden light, lived a woman named Pandora. She was the first woman crafted by the gods themselves and gifted with a spirit full of wonder and a heart overflowing with kindness. She arrived in a peaceful, early village, a place where laughter echoed through green valleys and the streams ran clear and sweet. The people welcomed her, drawn to her gentle nature and the bright curiosity that shone in her eyes. Everything was perfect, a world without sorrow, without pain. Among the many wonders of this new world, there was one object that held a peculiar mystery. It was a gift from Zeus, the king of the gods, delivered to Pandora's husband, Prometheus. It was a jar, beautifully ornate but sealed tight. Zeus had given a single, stern warning: never, under any circumstances, is this jar to be opened. It sat in a corner of their home, quiet and unassuming, yet it seemed to hum with a secret energy. To everyone else, it was just a piece of pottery. But to Pandora, it was an irresistible puzzle. Days turned into weeks, and Pandora's life was filled with joy. She learned the names of the flowers, listened to the songs of the birds, and danced in the soft evening rain. Yet her gaze would always drift back to the jar. What could be inside? Was it filled with sparkling jewels, the most fragrant perfumes, or perhaps the sweetest nectar imaginable? The mystery of it gnawed at her. Her curiosity, a gift that made her so vibrant and alive, now felt like a constant, gentle whisper in her ear, urging her to uncover the secret. She would often sit near the jar, tracing its intricate patterns with her fingertips. She could feel a faint vibration from within, a subtle stirring that only intensified her longing to know. She tried to busy herself with other tasks, weaving garlands of flowers or helping her neighbors, but the thought of the jar was a persistent shadow in her mind. It wasn't greed or malice that drove her. It was the pure, innocent desire to understand. She reasoned with herself, what harm could one little peek do? I'll just lift the lid for a moment and then close it right back up. One afternoon, when the sun was high and the village was quiet, Pandora found herself alone with the jar. The air was still, and the silence seemed to magnify the silent call of the container. Her heart pounded in her chest, a drumbeat of anticipation and trepidation. She knew of the warning, but her curiosity had grown into an overwhelming force, a wave she could no longer resist. With trembling hands, she approached the jar. The clay was cool beneath her touch. She took a deep breath, her decision made. Slowly, carefully, she worked at the heavy lid. It was sealed tight, as if resisting her efforts. For a moment, she hesitated. A flicker of doubt crossed her mind. Maybe this was a mistake, but the what-if was too powerful. With one final pull, the lid came loose. For a split second, nothing happened. Pandora peered inside, expecting to see treasure, but the jar was dark, and from its depths, something began to stir. It wasn't jewels or perfume that emerged. It was something ethereal, like wisps of gray smoke. These were not ordinary wisps. They were the spites, the sorrows of the world that Zeus had locked away. Out they flew, one after another, swirling into the pristine air. One was sickness, which made the body weak. Another was jealousy, which soured the heart. Then came anger, grief, poverty, and countless other small troubles that had never before touched the world. They swirled around Pandora like a phantom storm, their chilling whispers seeming to mock her curiosity. Horrified, Pandora scrambled to put the lid back on. Tears streamed down her face as she realized the gravity of what she had done. She could feel the world changing around her. The air grew heavier. The brilliant colors of the village seemed to fade, and for the first time, a cold feeling of despair washed over her. She had unleashed all the hardships and sorrows upon humanity. The perfect world was gone, shattered by a single moment of unchecked curiosity. She finally managed to slam the lid back onto the jar, but it was too late. The troubles were already loose, spreading across the land like a creeping fog. Pandora collapsed beside the sealed jar, her body racked with sobs. Guilt and regret were heavy burdens on her soul. She had been given a paradise, and she had tainted it. Through her tears, she heard a faint, tiny sound coming from within the jar. It was different from the chilling whispers of the spites. It was a gentle, fluttering sound, soft and persistent. Hesitantly, she listened closer. It was a tiny voice, pleading, "Let me out. I can help." Wary but desperate, Pandora thought for a moment. What more could she possibly lose? The worst had already happened. Taking another shaky breath, she lifted the lid just a crack. This time, what emerged was not a dark wisp of smoke, but a tiny, shimmering light, like a firefly on a summer's night. It was beautiful and warm, glowing with a soft, golden radiance. This tiny creature of light fluttered around Pandora, its gentle glow soothing her trembling heart. It didn't speak in words, but she understood its essence. This was hope. Hope had been at the bottom of the jar, the last thing left inside. While the sorrows brought pain and hardship, hope brought the strength to endure them. It was the promise of a sunrise after the longest night, the feeling that even in the face of despair, things could get better. Pandora watched as hope flew out of the window, not as a swirling menace, but as a beacon, spreading its gentle light across the world. It couldn't undo what had been done. It couldn't put the sorrows back in the jar. But it offered something just as powerful: resilience. From that day on, the world was a different place. It was a world with challenges and heartaches, where people knew sickness and sadness. But it was also a world with hope. Whenever things seemed their darkest, that tiny, glowing light would appear, a reminder that even after the greatest of mistakes, there is always a chance for healing, for courage, and for a better tomorrow. Pandora's story became a lesson for all of humanity, that while curiosity can lead to trouble, it is hope that allows us to face that trouble and continue to move forward. And so, even in a world filled with hardship, humanity was never left in complete darkness. Have you ever looked at the world and thought, what if we could just start over? A clean slate, a fresh beginning. Well, for the ancient Greeks, this wasn't just a fleeting thought, it was a terrifying reality, a story of divine judgment and the incredible resilience of humanity. This is the tale of the Great Flood, a myth that has echoed through civilizations, a story of destruction, survival, and ultimate renewal. Our story begins in an age of humanity known as the Bronze Age. The first men, crafted by the Titan Prometheus, had grown corrupt. Their hearts were filled with arrogance, violence, and a complete disregard for the gods who watched over them from Mount Olympus. They lied, they cheated, they fought endless wars, and their cruelty stained the very earth they walked on. The smoke from their unholy sacrifices drifted up to the heavens, not as a pleasing aroma, but as a foul stench of disrespect. Zeus, the king of the gods, grew weary. He had given humanity every chance, every opportunity to live in harmony, but they had squandered it. Looking down from his celestial throne, he saw not the noble creatures he had hoped for, but a plague upon the world. His patience, once as vast as the sky, had finally run out. A storm was brewing in his heart, a tempest of divine fury that would soon be unleashed upon the mortal realm. He decided the world needed to be cleansed, purified by a force so powerful it would wash away all the wickedness, leaving nothing but a blank canvas. So, he convened a council of the gods on Mount Olympus. The air crackled with tension as he announced his decision. He would unleash a great flood to wipe humanity from the face of the earth. Some gods shifted uneasily. Hadn't they sworn to protect mankind? But Zeus was resolute. His voice boomed like thunder, silencing all dissent. He would not use his mighty thunderbolts, for that would risk setting the heavens themselves ablaze. No, this would be a different kind of destruction, a slow, methodical, and total cleansing. He called upon his brother, Poseidon, the mighty ruler of the seas. He also enlisted the help of the river gods and the wind gods. Together, they would orchestrate a cataclysm. Zeus imprisoned the north winds, the ones that cleared the skies, and unleashed the south wind, heavy with moisture and gloom. Dark, ominous clouds gathered, blanketing the world in a perpetual twilight. Then the rain began. It wasn't a violent downpour at first, but a gentle, relentless drizzle. It fell for days, then weeks, then months. The soft patter on rooftops became a constant, monotonous drone. Rivers swelled, breaking their banks and swallowing fields and villages. The gentle rain turned into a torrential downpour, as if the sky itself had ruptured. Poseidon struck the earth with his trident, and from the cracks, underground springs erupted, joining the deluge from above. The seas surged, colossal waves crashing over coastal cities, dragging them into the depths. Mountains, once proud and tall, became islands in a churning, ever-rising ocean. The world transformed into a single, vast body of water. There was no distinction between land and sea. Animals drowned, forests were submerged, and the magnificent temples and cities of men disappeared beneath the waves. The cries of the wicked were swallowed by the roaring waters. All the strife, the greed, and the impiety of the Bronze Age were being washed away. The world was returning to its primordial, watery state. But amidst this universal destruction, there was a glimmer of hope. 2 righteous souls had been spared Zeus's wrath. One was Deucalion, the son of the Titan Prometheus, the very creator of mankind. The other was his wife Pyrrha, daughter of Epimetheus and Pandora. Unlike their contemporaries, Deucalion and Pyrrha were pious, just, and kind. They lived a life of simple virtue, honoring the gods and treating others with respect. Prometheus, ever the champion of humanity, had foreseen the coming disaster. From his eternal punishment, bound to a rock, he managed to send a warning to his son. He instructed Deucalion to build a great wooden chest, a simple ark, and to provision it for a long journey. Deucalion heeded his father's warning without question. He and Pyrrha gathered what they could and sealed themselves inside the chest just as the floodwaters began to rise. For 9 days and 9 nights, their small wooden vessel was tossed about on the boundless, churning sea. They were utterly alone, adrift in a world reborn of water. They couldn't see the sky. They couldn't see the land. All they could hear was the relentless pounding of the rain and the roar of the waves. It was a terrifying, isolating experience. Yet through it all, they held on to their faith. They prayed to Zeus, not begging for their lives, but accepting his judgment and trusting in his ultimate wisdom. They drifted calmly, their small ark a tiny symbol of hope in a world of despair. Finally, on the 10th day, the rain stopped. The waters began to recede. Their chest came to rest on the summit of Mount Parnassus, one of the few peaks to pierce the surface of the global ocean. Cautiously, Deucalion pushed open the lid. The sight that greeted them was one of absolute desolation. As far as the eye could see, there was only water and mud. The world was silent, empty, and clean. They were the sole survivors of the human race. Stepping out onto the muddy ground, they felt an overwhelming sense of loneliness. They wept, not for themselves, but for the lost world. They made their way to a half-submerged, slime-covered temple dedicated to the goddess Themis, the titaness of divine law and order. There, they fell to their knees and prayed, asking for guidance. "O great goddess," Deucalion cried, "if the anger of the gods is appeased, tell us by what art we may repair our ruined race." A mysterious voice answered from within the sanctuary, its words cryptic and strange. "Depart from the temple. Veil your heads, unfasten your robes, and cast the bones of your mother behind you." Deucalion and Pyrrha were horrified. Desecrate their mother's grave. This seemed like a sacrilegious act, but the wise Deucalion pondered the riddle. He realized the oracle couldn't be commanding them to commit such an impious deed. He thought about the great mother of all. It wasn't a person, but the earth itself, Gaia and her bones. They had to be the stones scattered across the land. With renewed hope, they veiled their heads and walked away from the temple, gathering stones as they went. Following the oracle's instructions, they threw the stones over their shoulders without looking back. A miracle occurred. The stones cast by Deucalion softened and began to take the shape of men. The stones thrown by Pyrrha transformed into women. The veins of the stones became veins in the new bodies, and their hardness became the resilience and endurance of this new human race. And so, from the stones of the earth, a new humanity was born. A hardier, more resilient people, destined to toil and endure, forever mindful of their stony origin and the great flood that had given them their second chance. Deucalion and Pyrrha became the progenitors of this new race, guiding them to rebuild civilization, not with arrogance and violence, but with humility, piety, and the strength to endure life's hardships. The world was renewed, and humanity was given a fresh start, born from the bones of the earth and the faith of two righteous souls. As the golden age of gods and titans faded into myth, the world entered a new era, the age of mortals. The gods, now distant figures on Mount Olympus, watched as humanity began to carve its own destiny. But the world was still a dangerous place, teeming with monsters and tyrants. It was a time that called for heroes, and from the crucible of mortal life, they began to emerge. Our story tonight begins in a bronze chamber, a prison meant to defy a prophecy. Here, Dano, daughter of King Perseus, was locked away. The king feared a prophecy that his grandson would one day kill him, but destiny cannot be so easily cheated. Zeus, the king of the gods, saw Dani's plight and her beauty, and he visited her as a shower of golden light. From this divine union, a child was born, Perseus. Hearing the baby's cries, the terrified king cast his daughter and grandson into the sea, sealed within a wooden chest. But the waves were guided by a gentle hand. They drifted for days, a fragile vessel on the vast, unforgiving ocean, until they washed ashore on the island of Seriphos. There, a kind fisherman named Dictys found them. He took them in, and on this humble island, under the watchful eye of a simple fisherman, the boy who would one day face Medusa grew up, his divine heritage hidden, his destiny waiting. Far away, in the city of Thebes, another child of Zeus was taking his first breaths. His name was Heracles. His mother, Alcmene, was a mortal queen. Zeus, ever the trickster, had disguised himself as her husband to be with her. When Hera, Zeus's jealous wife, learned of the child, her fury was boundless. She could not accept this latest reminder of her husband's infidelity. While Heracles was still just a baby, lying in his cradle, Hera sent 2 enormous, venomous snakes to end his life. The child's nursemaid fled in terror, but as the serpents slithered into the crib, their fangs ready to strike, something remarkable happened. The infant Heracles, with a strength that defied his tiny form, simply reached out. He grabbed one snake in each of his chubby fists, and, with a playful gurgle, squeezed. The life faded from the monstrous reptiles. When his mother and stepfather rushed back into the room, they found the baby boy playing with the limp bodies of the snakes as if they were toys. It was a stunning, terrifying display of power. This was no ordinary child. This was Heracles, the strongest mortal who would ever live, and his legendary 12 labors were still many years away. But even in his cradle, his heroic nature was undeniable. His strength was a gift from his divine father, but it would also be the source of his greatest tragedies. And then there was Athens, the city of wisdom and strategy, where another hero's journey was beginning. Aethra, the princess of Trozen, had a son named Theseus. The identity of his father was a secret, a riddle for the boy to solve. Before leaving, his father, King Aegeus of Athens, had placed his sword and sandals under a massive, unmovable rock. He told Aethra that when their son was strong enough to lift the stone and claim the items, he should come to Athens and claim his birthright. And so Theseus grew up with a question burning in his heart. Who was his father? He was a boy filled with boundless curiosity and a spirit that craved adventure. He watched other boys, he trained, and he grew stronger each day. He wasn't born with the overt, godlike power of Heracles, but he possessed a sharp mind and an unwavering courage. Every day, he would go to the great rock, testing his strength against it, pushing and pulling, never giving up. The other children might have mocked him, but Theseus was driven by the mystery of his own identity. He knew that beneath that stone lay the key to his future, a future he yearned to begin. His journey wouldn't be one of pure might, but of intelligence, bravery, and a deep desire to prove himself. As the years passed, these 3 boys, born in different lands and under different circumstances, grew towards their destinies. Perseus, the outcast prince, raised by a fisherman, learned humility and compassion, unaware of the monstrous Gorgon he was destined to confront. Heracles, the powerhouse plagued by Hera's wrath, trained his impossible strength, preparing for a life of epic trials and immense suffering. And Theseus, the clever and determined prince, relentlessly tested himself against the stone, his mind as sharp as the sword that awaited him. They were the first of a new breed of champions. They were not gods, though divinity flowed in their veins. They were mortals, blessed with extraordinary gifts, but also burdened by human flaws. They could feel pain, they could feel fear, and they could die. It was this very mortality that made their courage so profound. Their stories were not written in the stars by fate alone. They were forged in the choices they made, the challenges they faced, and the monsters they dared to fight. These boys were the dawn of a new age, the age of heroes, and their legends were just beginning. As they grew from boys into men, the world held its breath, for the paths of Perseus, Heracles, and Theseus would soon set the world of mortals ablaze with tales of impossible bravery and epic adventure. We're going to tell the story of a young man whose name has echoed through the ages, Perseus. His tale isn't just about slaying a monster. It's a profound story of courage, destiny, and the kind of bravery that shines brightest when facing the impossible. So, who was Perseus? He was the son of Zeus, the king of the gods, and a mortal woman named Dano. But his divine parentage didn't give him an easy life. From the moment he was born, he was cast out, set adrift on the sea with his mother by a fearful king. They were eventually rescued and found a home on the island of Seriphos. But peace was short-lived. The island's ruler, Polydex, desired Dano and saw the now-grown Perseus as an obstacle. To get rid of him, Polydex devised a seemingly impossible task, a suicide mission. He challenged Perseus to bring him the head of Medusa. Now, Medusa wasn't just any monster. She was one of the 3 Gorgon sisters, creatures so terrifying that a single glance into their eyes would turn any living thing to stone. Her hair was a writhing mass of venomous snakes, and her heart was filled with a bitterness born from a terrible curse. Many heroes, brave and strong, had tried to defeat her before. All had failed, becoming nothing more than silent, stone statues in her desolate Leora gallery of her victims. Polydex was sure this would be the end of Perseus. But he underestimated the young man's spirit, and he certainly underestimated the favor of the gods. Perseus, knowing he couldn't face this challenge alone, prayed for help, and the gods, his celestial family, answered. From Hermes, the swift messenger, he received a pair of winged sandals, allowing him to fly through the skies like a bird. He also gave Perseus an adamantine sword, a blade so sharp and strong it could slice through the Gorgon's scaly neck. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare, offered him a brightly polished bronze shield. This was no ordinary shield. It was his key to survival. She instructed him to use it as a mirror, to look at Medusa's reflection instead of directly at her, thus avoiding her petrifying gaze. The final gifts were a special satchel, the cabeces, to safely contain the severed head, and from Hades, the god of the underworld, came the helm of darkness, a cap that would make its wearer invisible. Armed with these divine tools, Perseus was no longer just a man. He was a champion of the gods, ready to face his destiny. His journey took him to the very edge of the world, to a land cloaked in perpetual twilight. The air grew cold, and the landscape became gray and lifeless. He first had to find the Grey sisters, who were sisters to the Gorgons. They were 3 ancient women who shared a single eye and a single tooth between them. They alone knew the location of Medusa's lair. Perseus, using his wit, snatched the eye as they were passing it from one to another. Blind and desperate, they were forced to reveal the path. Following their directions, Perseus flew over a desolate wasteland until he saw it, a cave carved into a cliffside, surrounded by an eerie silence. Even in sleep, she was a terrifying sight. Her face, once said to be beautiful, was contorted with ancient sorrow and rage. The snakes on her head coiled and uncoiled, their tongues flicking, sensing his presence even if they couldn't see him. Perseus knew he had only one chance. Any hesitation, any mistake, would mean joining the collection of stone statues. He positioned himself carefully, his eyes never leaving the reflection. He judged the angle, raised the adamantine sword, and with a single, swift motion, he struck. The blade, a gift from a god, cut cleanly through her neck. A terrible, unearthly shriek echoed through the cave, but it was already over. From the wound, two beings sprang forth, the winged horse, Pegasus, and the giant Chrysaor. But Perseus had no time to marvel at this. He quickly averted his eyes, grabbed the severed head by its snake-like hair, and placed it into the magical satchel. The two remaining Gorgons awoke with a furious roar, their cries of grief and rage shaking the very foundations of the cave. They could smell their sister's blood, but they could not see her killer. Perseus, still invisible, shot out of the cave, the winged sandals carrying him away at incredible speed. He could hear the pursuing Gorgons behind him, their wings beating the air, their hisses of frustration fading as he outpaced them, flying back toward the world of light. As he flew, the satchel at his side dripped with Medusa's blood. Where drops fell onto the sands of Libya, they transformed into poisonous snakes, forever marking the land. As he journeyed on, he came across the Titan Atlas, who was condemned to hold the heavens on his shoulders. After an insult, Perseus showed him the head of Medusa, and the mighty Titan was turned into a mountain of stone, forever gazing at the sky he once held. His adventures were not over. He rescued the beautiful princess Andromeda, who was chained to a rock as a sacrifice to a sea monster. Using Medusa's head, he turned the beast to stone and claimed Andromeda as his bride. Finally, he returned to the island of Seriphos. He arrived to find that his mother had been forced to seek sanctuary from the relentless king Polydex. Perseus strode into the king's court, where Polydex and his followers mocked him, refusing to believe he had succeeded. "I have brought the gift you requested," Perseus announced. When they demanded to see it, he warned his friends to look away. Then he pulled Medusa's head from the satchel. The king and all his sycophants looked upon it, and in an instant the hall was filled with new stone statues. Perseus had completed his quest. He had faced the embodiment of terror and emerged victorious, not just through brute force, but through intelligence, divine aid, and unyielding courage. He freed his mother, punished the wicked, and went on to become a great king and the founder of a legendary dynasty. He returned the divine gifts to the gods, his quest complete. Athena placed Medusa's head onto her own shield, the Aegis, where it became a symbol of her power, a tool to turn her enemies to stone. The story of Perseus and Medusa teaches us that true courage isn't the absence of fear. It's about facing that fear, using the tools you have, whether they're divine gifts or your own cleverness and resolve. It's about looking at the monster, even if only in a reflection, and choosing to act. It's a timeless reminder that even in the darkest caves, against the most terrifying foes, a hero can rise. Have you ever made a mistake so terrible you thought it could never be undone? A moment of madness that left you shattered, searching for a path back to yourself. This is the story of a man who faced such a moment and the extraordinary journey he took to find redemption. This is the story of Heracles. Our tale begins not with triumph, but with tragedy. In a fit of madness sent by the goddess Hera, Heracles, the strongest of all mortals, committed an unthinkable act. When his sanity returned, he was overcome with a grief so profound it threatened to consume him. Desperate for atonement, he sought the wisdom of the oracle at Delphi. The oracle's command was clear and daunting. Heracles must serve King Eurystheus of Mycenae and complete any 10 labors the king demanded. Only then could he purify his soul. Eurystheus, a man who both feared and envied Heracles' strength, devised a series of tasks so perilous, so impossible, that no mortal could ever hope to survive them. And so, with a heavy heart and the weight of his guilt upon his shoulders, Heracles set out. His first labor led him to the hills of Nemea, where a monstrous lion with a hide impervious to any weapon terrorized the land. As the sun rose, casting long shadows across the rugged landscape, Heracles found the beast's lair. He sealed one entrance and entered through the other. Arrows bounced harmlessly off the lion's golden fur, and his sword couldn't pierce its skin. Realizing that conventional weapons were useless, Heracles cast them aside. He wrestled the beast, a primal struggle of raw power against savage fury. Finally, with his immense strength, he locked his arms around the lion's neck and squeezed until the creature's breath was gone. He used the lion's own claw to skin it, and from that day on, he wore its impenetrable hide as a cloak, a symbol of his first victory over the impossible. Next, Eurystheus sent him to Lerna, a swampy marsh that was home to a creature of nightmares, the Hydra. This venomous, multi-headed water serpent had a terrifying ability. For every head that was cut off, 2 more would grow in its place. To make matters worse, one of its heads was immortal. Heracles, accompanied by his nephew Aeolus, confronted the beast. As Heracles swung his club and crushed a head, he saw 2 new ones sprout, hissing and snapping. He was fighting a losing battle. Realizing he needed a new strategy, Heracles called to Aeolus. As Heracles sliced off each head, Aeolus immediately cauterized the bleeding neck with a burning torch, preventing new heads from growing. Finally, only the immortal head remained. Heracles buried it deep beneath a massive rock, and his second labor was complete. He dipped his arrows in the Hydra's venomous blood, unknowingly crafting weapons that would play a crucial role in his future adventures. The third labor was a test not of brute force, but of speed and endurance. Heracles was tasked with capturing the Cyrenian hind, a deer with golden antlers and hooves of bronze, sacred to the goddess Artemis. This creature was so swift it could outrun an arrow. To harm it would be to incur the wrath of the goddess. So Heracles began a pursuit that lasted an entire year. He chased the hind across mountains and through valleys, a relentless, patient marathon. Finally, after a year of tireless running, the hind, exhausted, sought refuge by a river. Heracles managed to capture it without injury. On his way back, he encountered Artemis herself. He humbly explained his quest for atonement, and the goddess, understanding his plight, forgave him and allowed him to complete his task. Through this labor, Heracles learned the value of patience and perseverance. His journey continued, each task more varied and demanding than the last. For his fourth labor, he had to capture the Erymanthian boar, a giant, fearsome beast that ravaged the countryside. Heracles chased the boar up a snow-covered mountain, driving it into a deep snowdrift where it was trapped. He then bound the struggling animal and carried it all the way back to Mycenae, an incredible feat of strength. The fifth labor was perhaps the most humbling. Heracles was ordered to clean the stables of King Augeas in a single day. These stables housed thousands of cattle and had not been cleaned in 30 years. The sheer filth was overwhelming. But Heracles, now thinking with a clearer mind, saw a solution that didn't rely on a shovel. He diverted the courses of two mighty rivers, the Alpheus and the Peneus, sending their powerful currents rushing through the stables. In a matter of hours, the torrent of water washed away decades of filth, leaving the stables pristine. This labor taught him that ingenuity could be just as powerful as muscle. His travels then took him to the Stymphalian lake, where a flock of man-eating birds with bronze beaks and metallic feathers plagued the region. The dense forest around the lake made it impossible to confront them directly. This time, the goddess Athena aided him, giving him a pair of bronze crotala or castanets forged by Hephaestus. The noise they made was so unbearable that when Heracles rattled them, the terrified birds flew out of the trees. As they scattered into the open sky, he shot them down, one by one, with his hydra-poisoned arrows. The labors grew ever more distant and strange. He journeyed to Crete to capture the Cretan bull, a savage beast that breathed fire. Then he was sent to Thrace to capture the mares of Diomedes, horses that had been trained to eat human flesh. His eighth labor ended in another tragedy, as his dear friend was devoured by the mares before Heracles could tame them. With each step, with each sunrise that marked the beginning of a new challenge, a change was happening within him. The wild, impulsive warrior was slowly being tempered, his spirit becoming calmer, wiser. For his ninth labor, he sailed to the land of the Amazons to obtain the golden girdle of their queen, Hippolyta. What began as a peaceful negotiation turned into a bloody battle due to Hera's meddling, but he ultimately succeeded. His 10th labor took him to the very edge of the known world, to the island of Erythea, to steal the cattle of the three-bodied giant Geryon. It was a long and perilous voyage, a testament to his unwavering resolve. After 10 labors and years of service, Heracles returned, expecting his ordeal to be over. But Eurystheus, ever cruel, declared that 2 of the labors didn't count the Hydra because his nephew had helped, and the Augean stables because the rivers did the work. 2 more impossible tasks were added to his sentence. The 11th labor seemed truly impossible: to fetch the golden apples of the Hesperides, which grew in a garden at the western edge of the world, guarded by a 100-headed dragon. Heracles journeyed far and wide, eventually seeking the help of the Titan Atlas, who held the heavens upon his shoulders. Heracles offered to take the sky for a moment if Atlas would fetch the apples for him. Atlas agreed, but upon returning with the apples, he refused to take the heavens back. Thinking quickly, Heracles cleverly asked Atlas to hold the sky for just a moment so he could adjust his cloak. The foolish Titan agreed, and as soon as he took the burden, Heracles grabbed the apples and departed. Finally came the 12th and final labor, the most terrifying of all: to descend into the underworld itself and bring back Cerberus, the 3-headed hound that guarded its gates. Guided by Hermes and Athena, Heracles entered the realm of the dead. He faced Hades, the king of the underworld, and respectfully asked for permission to borrow Cerberus. Amused by his audacity, Hades agreed, on one condition: Heracles must subdue the beast with his bare hands. He wrestled the monstrous dog, his strength and courage unwavering, even in the face of death's guardian. He brought Cerberus to Eurystheus, who was so terrified he hid in a jar, begging Heracles to take the beast away. And so his 12 labors were complete. Through immense suffering, relentless effort, and profound loss, Heracles had done the impossible. He had not just battled monsters. He had battled the monster within himself. He emerged from his trials not just as a hero of immense strength, but as a man who had faced his darkest moment, and through a long and arduous journey, finally found his redemption. His story reminds us that even from the deepest despair, there is a path to atonement, and that true strength is not just about overpowering others, but about mastering ourselves. Have you ever felt lost, truly lost, in a maze of your own making, or one that life has built around you? Imagine a maze, not of hedges, but of cold, unfeeling stone, stretching into darkness so complete that light itself seems to die at its entrance. This is the labyrinth of Crete, a place of legend, a trap from which no one had ever returned. At its heart lived a creature of nightmare, the Minotaur, half man, half bull, a symbol of brute force and primal fear. This is where our story begins, not just with the terror of the labyrinth, but with the arrival of a hero unlike any other. And the scent of the sea. He must have known that brute strength alone would be devoured by the darkness. He needed a different kind of weapon. That weapon came in a form he never expected. It wasn't a sword or a shield, but a simple gift from a compassionate heart. Ariadne, the daughter of King Minos, saw the courage in Theseus's eyes. She had watched the grim procession of Athenian youths year after year, and her heart ached for them. But in Theseus, she saw a flicker of hope. She approached him secretly, under the cloak of night, the palace gardens silent around them. In her hands she held two things, a sword, sharp and ready, and a simple ball of thread. "The labyrinth is a trick," she whispered, her voice soft but urgent. "It is designed to confuse the mind, to make you lose all sense of direction until you are nothing but lost prey. This sword may help you face the beast, but it will not help you face the maze." She then pressed the ball of thread into his hand. "Take this," she said. "Tie one end to the entrance. As you go deeper, let the thread unspool behind you. It will be your only guide, your lifeline back to the light." It was a moment of profound insight. Ariadne understood that the true challenge of the labyrinth wasn't just surviving the Minotaur, but escaping the crushing despair of being lost. Imagine Theseus at the great stone entrance, the cheers of the Cretan crowd fading behind him as he stepped into the gloom. The air grew cold and still. The only sound was the drip of water and the distant, unsettling echo of his own footsteps. He took a breath, tied the end of Ariadne's thread to the lintel, and with the ball of string in one hand and the sword in the other, he plunged into the twisting corridors. The torchlight flickered, casting long, dancing shadows that played tricks on his eyes. Every turn looked the same. Every passage led to more passages. It was a masterpiece of disorientation, built to break the will. Without the thread, he would have been lost within minutes. He could feel the genius of its design, the way it preyed on human instinct. You think you're heading straight, but the walls curve ever so slightly. You take a turn that feels right, only to find yourself back where you started. But Theseus didn't rely on his instincts. He relied on the thread. It was a thin, fragile connection to the world outside, a testament to Ariadne's cleverness and his trust in her. As he ventured deeper, the thread became his anchor in a sea of stone, a constant physical reminder that there was a way back. The journey was long and terrifying. The silence was broken by strange noises, a scraping sound from around a corner, a low growl that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Fear was a constant companion, a cold knot in his stomach, but the thread, spooling out behind him, gave him focus. It allowed him to quiet the panic in his mind and concentrate on the task ahead. He wasn't just wandering, he was mapping the darkness. He was walking with purpose, guided not by sight, but by a single, continuous line. This is the essence of true cleverness, not just having a brilliant idea, but having the discipline to follow it through, even when you're surrounded by fear and uncertainty. Finally, he reached the center of the labyrinth. In a large, circular chamber, the air thick with a primal stench, he found it, the Minotaur. It was a terrifying sight, a hulking beast of muscle and rage. The battle that followed was fierce. The clash of steel against horn and hide echoed through the stone maze. But Theseus was not just a brawler, he was a strategic fighter. He used the chamber's layout to his advantage, dodging and weaving, tiring the great beast out. He was fighting not just with his sword, but with his mind, the same mind that had been kept clear and focused by Ariadne's simple, brilliant plan. After a grueling fight, Theseus stood victorious. The monster was slain. The symbol of Crete's brutal power lay defeated, but the victory was only half won. Now came the true test of Ariadne's gift. All around him was the oppressive, silent maze. The adrenaline of the fight faded, replaced by the chilling realization of his location, the dead center of a place no one had ever escaped. Exhausted, bruised, he turned, and his eyes fell upon the delicate thread lying on the stone floor. It was his path, his salvation. Carefully, he began to rewind the string, his heart pounding with a new kind of hope. Each step he took away from the center was a step back towards life, towards the sun. The journey out was just as tense as the journey in. He had to trust the thread completely, even when his memory told him a passage was a dead end. He followed its path without question, winding the string back into a ball, his guide through the shadows. It was a slow, deliberate process, a moving meditation on trust and ingenuity. The thread didn't just lead him out of the maze, it led him out of despair. And then a change in the air, a faint breeze, a sliver of gray light in the distance. He quickened his pace, his feet finding a new energy. The sliver grew into a crack, and then an opening. He burst out of the labyrinth's entrance, blinking in the daylight, the ball of thread clutched tightly in his hand. The island seemed to hold its breath for a moment, and then a collective sigh of relief. The hero had returned. The curse was broken. The other Athenian tributes, waiting in terror, were saved. Theseus hadn't just conquered a monster. He had outsmarted a puzzle thought to be unsolvable. The story of Theseus and the labyrinth is more than just a myth about a hero and a monster. It's a powerful lesson about the nature of problems we face in our own lives. Sometimes, the biggest challenges aren't the monsters we can see, but the complex, confusing mazes we get lost in mazes of doubt, of difficult decisions, of overwhelming circumstances. In these moments, brute force and blind determination often fail us. We can run in circles, exhausting ourselves until we give up. What we truly need is a thread, a simple, clever idea, a clear, guiding principle that we can hold on to when everything else is confusing. It could be a piece of advice from a friend, a core value you refuse to abandon, or a single, manageable first step in a daunting project. Like Theseus, we need the wisdom to recognize the value of that simple solution and the courage to trust it. Cleverness, the story teaches us, isn't always about grand, complex strategies. More often, it's about finding that one simple, elegant solution that cuts through the noise and leads you back to the light. Come, settle in, and let your mind drift to the calm shores of ancient Troy. Let the story unfold like the gentle lapping of waves against the sand. It all began not with a clash of swords, but with something far quieter, a golden apple. On it were the words, "For the fairest." This simple apple, a seed of discord, was tossed among goddesses at a grand wedding feast. Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite all claimed it as their own. To settle the matter, they turned to a mortal, a young prince named Paris, who was tending his flocks on a peaceful hillside. Each goddess offered him a gift. Hera promised power, Athena offered wisdom and victory in battle, but Aphrodite whispered of love. She promised him the hand of the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen of Sparta. Paris, guided by his heart, gave the apple to Aphrodite. It was a choice that would echo through the ages. A small pebble dropped into a calm pond, sending ripples out to the furthest shores. Fate had begun to weave its intricate tapestry. Following Aphrodite's promise, Paris traveled across the sea to the gleaming kingdom of Sparta. There, he was welcomed as a guest by King Menelaus and his queen, the legendary Helen. Her beauty was just as the goddess had promised, and as fate would have it, she and Paris fell in love. Together, they slipped away in the dead of night, sailing back to the high-walled city of Troy, leaving behind a stunned and heartbroken king. When Menelaus discovered his queen was gone, a fire of indignation spread through the lands of Greece. He called upon his brother, Agamemnon, the mighty king of Mycenae. They sent out a call to all the great kings and heroes of the Achaean states. An oath, sworn long ago, bound them to defend Helen's honor, and so they came. From every corner of the land, heroes gathered. There was the cunning Odysseus, wise and resourceful. There was the great Ajax, a tower of strength. And, of course, there was Achilles, the swiftest and most formidable warrior of them all. His destiny tragically tied to this war. 1,000 ships were launched, their sails catching the wind. A vast fleet moving as one across the Aegean Sea. The quiet shores of Troy would soon see the arrival of this immense army, their bronze armor glinting under the sun. The gentle waves would soon carry the weight of a decade of conflict. For 10 long years, the battle raged outside the impenetrable walls of Troy. The days were filled with the clang of bronze on bronze, and the nights were heavy with the silence of a long stalemate. The Greeks could not breach the city, and the Trojans could not drive the Greeks back into the sea. Heroes on both sides rose and fell. The great Trojan prince, Hector, a noble warrior and protector of his people, fought with immense courage. He was the anchor of Troy, a devoted husband and father who battled not for glory, but for his home. On the Greek side, Achilles was a force of nature, a storm of fury on the battlefield. Yet, his pride was as great as his skill. A dispute with Agamemnon led him to withdraw from the fight, and the tide of the war turned in Troy's favor. The Greeks were pushed back to their ships, their spirits wavering. Only the loss of his dearest friend, Patroclus, who wore Achilles' armor into battle and fell at the hands of Hector, could bring him back. Consumed by grief and rage, Achilles returned to the fray, a lion unleashed. He sought out Hector, and in a fateful duel that stilled the entire battlefield, the two greatest warriors of the age finally met. Hector fell, and with him, a part of Troy's soul. But fate is impartial. Achilles, too, was destined to fall. A poisoned arrow, guided by the god Apollo and fired by Paris, found the one vulnerable spot on his body, his heel. The greatest of the Greek heroes lay still upon the Trojan plain. Even with their champions gone, the war dragged on. The city of Troy stood firm, its walls a testament to its resilience. It seemed the stalemate might last forever. But the hero Odysseus, known for his clever mind rather than his brute strength, devised a plan. It was a plan of deception, a final, ingenious gambit. The Greeks built a colossal wooden horse, a beautiful and imposing figure, and left it on the beach as an offering to the gods. Then they packed their camps, boarded their 1,000 ships, and appeared to sail away, as if admitting defeat. The Trojans awoke to a silent shore. The enemy was gone. Cries of victory and relief echoed through the streets of Troy. They marveled at the giant horse, seeing it as a trophy, a symbol of their hard-won peace, despite the warnings of a few, including the priest Laocoon and the prophetess Cassandra, whose prophecies were fated, never to be believed. The Trojans rejoiced. They pulled the great wooden horse through their city gates, breaching the very walls that had protected them for a decade. That night, the city celebrated. Wine flowed freely, and songs of victory filled the air. For the first time in 10 years, the people of Troy slept without fear. But as the city fell into a deep, peaceful slumber, a hidden door in the belly of the horse opened. Odysseus and a small band of elite Greek warriors slipped out into the darkened streets. They were silent shadows moving towards the city gates, which they threw open for the rest of the Greek army. The ships had not sailed for home. They had only hidden behind a nearby island, waiting for the signal. The Greek army poured into the sleeping city. Troy, which had never been conquered by force, fell to cunning. The long, weary war was finally over. The great city was reduced to ruins, its story a whisper on the wind. When the dust settled and the fires died down, the surviving Greek heroes began their long journeys home. But the seas were not kind, and the gods were not finished with them. Their voyages were fraught with new dangers and sorrows. Odysseus, the architect of the victory, would wander for another 10 years before he saw his home again. The winds that had carried the 1,000 ships to Troy eventually grew calm. The shores became quiet once more. The story of the Trojan War became a legend, a tale told by the fireside, a lesson on pride, love, and the inescapable hand of fate. And now, as our story ends, let the gentle waves of Troy carry you into a deep and peaceful sleep. Let your breath be the soft sea breeze, and your dreams be as calm as the quiet shore after the storm has passed. As twilight drapes itself over Mount Olympus, A golden red glow bathes the marble halls in a soft, final light. This isn't the vibrant, living light of dawn, but the gentle, melancholic fire of a setting sun, mirroring the end of an era. We, who once thundered across the heavens and walked among mortals, now sit in quiet contemplation. The world below, once our playground and our battleground, is changing. It no longer echoes with our pronouncements or trembles at our wrath. Instead, a new kind of power is rising, subtle yet unyielding. It's the power of humanity. For eons, our existence was intertwined with theirs. Every storm was Zeus's fury, every harvest a gift from Demeter, every poem a whisper from the muses. We were the explanation for the inexplicable, the divine hand shaping mortal destiny. We guided heroes, punished the arrogant, and loved with a passion that set the world alight. But look now, the mortals, once so dependent, are finding their own way. They are charting the stars without Helios's chariot to guide them. They are forging steel and building empires with a strength that comes not from our blessings, but from their own hands and minds. We see it in the eyes of their philosophers, who seek truth not in oracles, but in logic and reason. We hear it in the bustling markets, where merchants trade goods from distant lands, their ships guided by skill and knowledge rather than pleas to Poseidon. Their triumphs are becoming their own. Their tragedies are no longer seen as divine punishment, but as the consequences of their own choices. They are learning to stand on their own 2 feet, and in doing so, they are slowly, gently letting us go. It's a strange feeling, this slow, inevitable fade. It's not a violent overthrow, no war of titans or giants. It's more like a dream you can't quite hold on to upon waking. Our temples, once bustling with petitioners and fragrant with sacrifice, are becoming quieter. They are still places of beauty and reverence, but they are becoming monuments to a past age rather than active conduits to the divine. The stories of our adventures, of our loves and our wars, are changing. They are being written down, compiled into grand epics. They are moving from the realm of belief into the realm of legend. From our vantage point, we watch this transformation unfold. Hermes, the swift messenger, no longer has as many divine decrees to carry. His winged sandals are still, and he watches the intricate networks of roads the mortals are building, a terrestrial web that rivals his own celestial paths. Ares, the god of war, sees armies that march not for the glory of a patron deity, but for the ambition of a king or the ideals of a nation. Their strategies are their own, their valor born of human courage, not divine favor. Even Aphrodite, goddess of love, sees mortals writing their own sonnets, their love stories becoming personal epics, their passions no longer needing a goddess to ignite them. There is a profound peace in this twilight. The constant clamor of mortal prayers has softened to a distant hum. The weight of shaping destiny, a burden we carried for millennia, is lifting from our shoulders. We are becoming what we were always meant to be: symbols, ideals, the personification of the great forces of nature and the deepest human emotions. We are the storm, the sea, the sun, the harvest, love, wisdom, and war. We are not disappearing. We are being woven into the very fabric of the world, into the stories they will tell their children for generations to come. Think of it this way: a sculptor creates a masterpiece. For a time, the sculptor is essential. Every chip of the hammer, every polish of the stone, a direct act of creation. But once the statue is complete, it stands on its own. It inspires awe and tells its story without the sculptor's constant intervention. The artist's spirit is forever embedded in the work, but the work itself now has its own life. Humanity is our masterpiece. We shaped them, guided them, and now they are ready to stand on their own, a testament to the age we forged together. Our forms are becoming less distinct, more ethereal. We are shimmering, blending with the sunset hues that paint the sky. Apollo's lyre still plays, but its melody is now carried on the wind, a song of memory rather than a command for attention. Artemis still roams the celestial forests, but she is becoming the moonlight itself, a silent guardian rather than an active huntress. Zeus, the king of gods and men, sits on his throne, his gaze serene. He is no longer the fearsome wielder of lightning, but the embodiment of order and justice, principles that mortals are now learning to uphold themselves. The world is not left empty. It is filled with the echoes of our presence. Every time a poet seeks inspiration, they are calling on the muses, whether they know it or not. Every time a blacksmith strikes hot iron, the spirit of Hephaestus is in the sparks. Every time lovers gaze at each other, Aphrodite's smile is reflected in their eyes. We are not gone. We have simply changed our form, from active participants to the silent, foundational myths upon which a new world is being built. As the last sliver of the sun dips below the horizon, Olympus grows quiet. The air is still, filled with a sense of completion, of a great cycle turning. The age of gods is ending, not with a bang, but with a gentle, peaceful sigh. It is giving way to the age of men, and we, the fading gods, watch with a sense of pride. The world is in their hands now. The stories will continue, and in those stories, we will live forever, immortalized, not by divine power, but by human memory. Our legacy is secure. The legends have been written, and now it is time for the silence. Thank you for journeying with us through this epic tale. If you were moved by the twilight of the gods, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories that explore the myths and legends that shape our world. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter. Until next time, keep the legends alive.